Hello everyone, welcome back to Steam Code. In this video we're going to be going over how you can create a basic game of tic-tac-toe for absolute beginners. So in this video we will not be creating any graphical user interfaces or any complex things. We're just going to be working through the Python syntax to get the logic of the game going and to create just a simple basic baseline tic-tac-toe game. So first, inside of your app.py file or whatever you've named it, we're going to create some variables. So we can say winner is equal to 0. This is just the winner of the game. Board is equal to, and this is a 2D array. This represents the board, the tic-tac-toe board. Each of these inner arrays represents a row. So this is the first row. Then we have the second and the third row. And then the current player. This is the current player, as the name suggests. That'll just be 1. This represents X. Okay, so now we're going to create a function. Functions in Python allow you to run certain segments of code multiple times without having to restate what you've written. So instead of writing, say for example, print hello world 50 times, you can just say, you can create a for loop and then say, do whatever this function is multiple times. That's just a basic analogy. So first thing we're going to do within this function is say global current player, board, and winner. What this does is it allows us to access these global variables that we just created within our limited scope function. And then next, what we're going to do is we're going to create a string representation of this board. So we're going to say print str, then board 0. And what this does is it just creates a string representation of the first row of the board and it prints it. So we're going to need a new line, then we're going to do the same with the other 2 rows. Okay, so this is row 2, row 1. Okay, and then we're going to call a function called ChooseMove. We're going to create this in just a minute. So ChooseMove current player. So what this does is it allows the current player, who is 1, this is X, to choose where they're going to play. And we're going to create that in just a little while. Then next we're going to determine if anyone has 1. So if has 1 current player. So if the current player has 1, we're going to create that function as well. Then set the winner to current player. And then input string representation of the winner variable has 1. And then we're just going to return so that nothing else within this function is running. Then below this, if nobody has 1, then current player will alternate. So we're going to say times equals -1. So it can alternate between -1 and 1. Those will represent X and 0. Then we're going to call this main function again. So we're calling this main function within itself so that as long as nobody has won the game, it keeps on going up to the top, then it prints the board again, it allows the next player to choose their move, then it checks if anyone has won. If that hasn't happened, then it repeats that process. If it has happened, then it goes through this if statement, then it returns, then once it returns, nothing under here executes. So that's how this works. So it works recursively. So instead of having to create a for loop or a while loop or a bunch of if statements, we can just have this recursive function call to make things much simpler. So now let's actually create the functions that we defined up, that we referenced up here. So first we're going to create ChooseMove. So we can say def ChooseMove. And we're getting 1 parameter. This will be P. This is the player that is currently playing. What we'll say is X is equal to input X value of position. this will just be the row value of the position. And then y equals input y value of position. This is the column value of the position. And then board int x and int y is equal to p. So what this is doing is it's asking for first this x value, which is the x value of the position. That will just be the row that the position lies in. So it'll either be 0, 1, or 2. Then it asks for the y position. So it'll be the position within one of these arrays. So it'll be either 0, 1, or 2 as well, but it'll be confined within one of these arrays. And then what this does, board int x int y equals p, it sets the xy values, so it sets that specific cell within the board to the current player. And the reason I have this int cast is because when you do this input, it automatically accepts a string, so we need to convert that into an integer. So that's really all we need for the ChooseMove function. Let's create the function has1. So we'll say def has1. Same as last time, we're going to create a variable p as our parameter. This is just the current player. So first we're going to check the rows, so we'll say for row in board if row 0 is equal to p, and then we'll repeat this for row 1 and 2. So what this is saying is if row 0, so if this 0 position within the row that we're currently talking about is equal to p, is equal to the current player, and the second one is equal to p, and the third one is equal to p, then what we're going to do is we're going to return true, which means that this player has won because they got 3 in a row. And this is all we need to check the rows, because it iterates through each of the rows, and we just use this row variable to keep track of that. So now let's do the same thing for the columns. So we can say for col in range 3. This just goes through the numbers 0, 1, and 2. We can say if board 0 col is equal to p, and then we can, same as last time, we can repeat this. Repeat this for 1 and 2. And then we'll also return true as well. So same as the rows, what this does is it iterates through each of the columns, and it checks whether all 3 cells within each column are equal, and if they are equal, then it returns true, meaning that the current player in question, which is the parameter that we passed here, has won. And then at the very bottom, outside of both of these for loops, we're going to return false. So what this returning false does is it says if none of these things has happened, so if this return true never happens, if this return true never happens, then we know that we know that this player hasn't won, so we can just return false because we're sure of that now. And then actually we also need to check the diagonal, so we can just say if board 0 0 is equal to board 1 1, and board 1 1 is equal to board 2 2. We're just doing it again, and board 0, 0 is equal to P. Then what we'll do is we will return true. And we're going to repeat the same process for the other diagonal. So just copy all of this. So we're going to start in the top right, so that is board 0, 2. The middle is still the same, board 1, 1. And then the bottom left, so that's board 2, 0. And board 2, 0 is equal to P. Then we're just going to return true as well. All right. Then at the very end, we need to make sure we're actually calling one of these functions. We're going to be calling main. If we don't call any of the functions, nothing we wrote here will run, and it'll be basically meaningless. So we need to make sure we're calling the main function. Then if we save this, we can run it. So this is running in the terminal here. So the x value of the position, let's say 0, y value 0. So now this top left position within the board has been set to 1, which represents x. Then the x value of the position, let's say 0 again, y value 2. So this will be the top right of the board. Now it's set to -1, which represents y. Then let's say x value 1, 1, or x1, y1. Then the middle's been set. Now for O, let's say O wants to play 0, 1. This would be top middle. And then lastly, say X wants to play 2, 2. Then now, as you see here, 1 has 1 because there's a diagonal right here. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This has just been a basic tutorial of how to use Python to create a simple tic-tac-toe. We're just working through the logic here, working through how to use Python syntax in a way that we can express these logical thinkings within our code. And this has been Steam Code, and I will see you next time. Hope you've enjoyed.